When I was 25, my mom died from lung cancer. It changed my life forever. Losing my mom made me question what I was doing with my life, what really mattered to me, how could I contribute or help people. And of course, all the existential questions like what is the purpose or meaning of my life? Why was I on the planet? What was it all for? So many things in my life seemed insignificant after losing her. Just a year before, I'd moved to Los Angeles from Connecticut to work in film production. It was a dream that I just had to pursue, even though many people tried to talk me out of it. But only 8 months after moving, I got a call from my mom that the cancer she had years prior had come back. I arranged to sublet my studio apartment and flew to Florida to take care of her. I had no idea of the journey ahead. Those months I had with her, taking care of her, supporting her through treatments, were some of the most significant and meaningful months of my life. Like many girls, there was a time when my mom and I didn't get along. In fact, we didn't speak for almost 2 years. But thankfully, we'd reconciled before this final chapter in our story together. The first few months of getting her radiation treatments were fairly normal. She wasn't in pain, and we were able to go to lunch, and she even had the stamina to take walks on the beach. We'd have evening chats on the lanai, listening to the breeze rustle through the palm fronds as we sipped herbal tea, talked about life. We never talked about the possibility that she was going to die. At first, she said she was going to fight it and was sure she could beat it. But she was losing weight so fast, and the pain in her joints led to a bone scan that detected the cancer had spread. We ate ice cream, we watched silly movies, and laughed whenever we could. We both avoided acknowledging she was dying. This was a very surreal time in my life. I'd gotten a job as a cocktail waitress at night at a comedy club. Sometimes they stationed me out in the front lobby selling colorful shots in test tubes. I'd quit drinking when I was 19. With my mom's cancer on my mind and being around drunken laughter, the whole scene didn't seem real. It was always a thought in my mind that she might not be alive when I got home from a shift. My mom went into hospice care and she died peacefully about 4 weeks later. I was holding her hand, counting in between breaths. I kept counting. Then I felt her energetic presence up in the corner of the room, looking down upon us. From that time forward, my life changed. I brought her cat back to LA with me, and I had no interest in going back to work on film sets. The last production had been pretty dysfunctional. I decided to give my dream of being a screenwriter a chance, and of course, got a job waiting tables because that's what screenwriters in LA do. I didn't have success with the screenwriting, though I did have an agent for a while. But that experience of screenwriting would prove to be very valuable in my future after another very significant loss. I had a long-distance boyfriend who lived in London while I was living in LA. We were supposed to meet in Spain and travel around together for a few weeks. But as fate would have it, I found out he'd been cheating on me, and I ended up going on that trip alone. I think it was on my 3rd day I'd rented a moped to explore a beach some locals told me about. I lost control of the moped after an 18-wheeler laid on the horn. It startled me. Time went into slow motion as I saw the metal fence getting closer. As I skidded on the asphalt, my left leg and hand were under the moped as the rest of me rode it like a surfboard. Thankfully, my head didn't hit that metal. I was in shock, mostly just really bad road rash. lost a lot of layers of skin, down to the ligaments on my left hand, which was the most damaged. I had to lay low for the rest of the trip. I was bandaged up and it was too hard to travel with my backpack. I already had a broken heart because of the cheating boyfriend. It pretty much sucked. I thought a lot about my hand as I sat alone in cafes and on beaches. I wondered if there was something I could do with my hand that could be helpful to people. It seemed like if I was going to get to keep my left hand, I should use it in some way to benefit others or make a contribution. That temporary loss of the use of my left hand led me to enroll in massage therapy school. It was an incredibly rewarding avocation for me and one that I thoroughly enjoyed. Life was good. I met a guy, we fell in love, and built a life together. But the last 3 years of our 17-year relationship weren't healthy. I'd lost myself, put too much of my worth and value in his opinion of me. I felt completely blindsided when the abrupt end came to the marriage. He'd had multiple affairs. I felt completely worthless. He took his video games and whiskey glasses when he moved out. I fell apart. But something deep within me signaled me to start writing. That whatever this experience was going to be would be my first book. I'd given up the screenwriting idea and shifted to writing about life experiences. My intention was to write about doing volunteer work during a year of healing and creating a new, vibrant life. I could not have been more wrong. Yes, I did volunteer work, but I was on a self-destructive mission to end the pain. Maybe you've felt like that, completely lost and wishing there'd be some way you could just sleep for a few months, or you're numbing out with booze like I was. What I want you to know is that when I look back at that time in my life, I now see it as the only thing that could have initiated my transformation. I could not have become the person I am today in that marriage, and I would not want to give up who I am, even if there were some magic wand that could erase the betrayal and divorce and transport me back into that relationship, back into the family I loved, and live in the home I loved. So even though you may not be able to see anything in your future, or feel like you know who you are or why you're here, let that be okay. It's from this empty space that you will create the new version of yourself, and a whole new life that you can't even possibly imagine right now, because life is always unfolding for us, just a few steps at a time. Remember I told you about the screenplays I wrote and how nothing really came of it? Well, when I was journaling during the aftermath of my ex leaving, I used the skills I'd learned through screenwriting to craft a book that is very visual. And this is what came from that, my book. I had no idea that going through the dark night of the soul would lead to fulfilling a childhood dream of writing a book that could help people. You may have heard Steve Jobs' speech he gave at Stanford University's commencement, where he talked about connecting the dots of our seemingly random life experiences. Most relevant to this video is this part of his speech. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. Let that be okay. You can't possibly know who you are evolving into becoming, but when you get there and look back, it will all be clear. It will all make sense. If you look back over your life's experiences at the losses you've gone through, can't you see how they led to your growth in some way? I know you may feel like this time is different. This loss feels too much, too overwhelming, and all-consuming. I felt like that too. You've got to find a way to cultivate not only hope, but an unwavering trust in the belief that you will come out of this dark night of the soul not only in one piece, but stronger, wiser, and eventually happier. Look in the comments for a link to an application for 6 coaching sessions for free. These will be audio only recorded and uploaded to my channel because I believe it will help other people to listen to how coaching can make a truly significant impact on our personal reinvention.